Thank you. Okay. Is it this order?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you think of it. She went to mine.
Yeah, exactly. I thought we just played about the trees.
They were standing together. They were together. They were
No,
I just figured.
Dodger game. I said, well, Rabbi Tito's not a Dodger fan. Yankees are playing. He finds some sort of exception in the Talmud to put a TV up there to watch the
keep going because no one can hear you yet. Middle of page 204. Middle of 204. Please rise as the ark is open, middle of 204.
Shiva shel mata haladat hamakum v'yaldat hakol anu matirin lehitpalel imavar yanim v'shiva shel mala v'shiva shel mata haladat hamakum
We're going to take 3 Sifrei Torah out of the Ark to be honored with holding the first 3 scrolls are Vivian Alberts, Ron Alberts, and Avi Peretz.
Kol nidre vesarei vacharamei vekonamei vechinuyei vekinusei Ushevuot.
Din eterna uni shabana udi acharimena viti hasorna alina shaitana
Miyom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim Abba Aleinu Letova.
Kulihon icharat navechon Kulihon yehon shayran Shirikim
Shiviti Betelin Muvutalin Lasharin Lakayamin
Nitrana la nitre vesarana la sarai
Shavuatana La Shavuot.
For the second recitation of Kol Nidre, the Sifrei Torah will be handed to Bobby Ring and Susan Chetzroni and Stuart Tockner. He did.
esarei vecharamei vekonamei vechinuyei vekinusei ushavut dindarna udehishtabana udiacharimna vedasana al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova kulhon icharat navon kulhon yon sharan shavikin shavitin betelin umavutalin lasharirin velakayamin nidrana la nidre viesarna la esarei ushavuatano la Shavuot.
And for the third recitation of Kol Nidre, we honor also fellow past presidents Mike Cohn, Marshall Temkin, and Mark Wolf.
Kol nidrei ve'esarei v'charamei ve'konamei ve'chinuyei ve'kinusei Shavuot Dindarna Udeishtevana Udeacharimna Vedi asarna al nafshatana כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה כולהון איחרתנה והון כולהון יהון שערן שוויקין שוויקין בטלין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין נדרנה לנדרי ויסרנה לאסרי ושבועתנה להשבות.
ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכולם בשגגה.
We repeat in Hebrew. V'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar betocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga.
ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכולם בשגגה.
Now in English, the entire congregation of the people Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all have erred.
ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכולם בשגגה.
In Hebrew, v'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar betocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga.
סלח נא לעוון העם הזה, כי גודל חסדך, וכאשר נסעת לעם הזה, ממצרים ועד הנה, ושם נאמר, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
Vayomer Adonai salachti chidvarecha.
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha.
אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם
שהחיינו
והקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
As usual, there are still plenty of seats close to me. This brings me back to middle school. High school. How is it in the back? Claudia, can you hear? All right. How are the sight lines over there? What do I see? Is that Aaron Spiewak? He was there. There he is. Okay, I can see you. You can see me. All right. Gajantiv, everyone. There are more seats here. Right by the principal. One of my closest friends when he was in rabbinical school, he, like many of us, had a pulpit for high holidays as a way of getting experience, earning some income. And one year, his pulpit was in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, like hardcore Penn State country. Lewisburg, Lewistown, something like that. Small shul. He was brought out there for the high holidays, and he was expected to do everything. It was the middle of his Yom Kippur Yizkor sermon. Mid-sentence, a teenager runs into the room and yells, "Halftime, Penn State 21, Ohio State 14. Everybody cheered and went back to listening to the sermon. I don't know what made me think of that right now. It really is incredible that some of you are here when I think about it. Looking at you. May the best team win. Listen, we do have Padres fans in the room, so I have to be careful. Where are they? Where are my Padres fans? Where are they? Okay. Fan. No, there's more than one. There's more than one. Where are the Fertels? There they are. Okay. Maybe I should do the sermon like a broadcaster. That sermon is long. That sermon is long. It is gone. It's not going to be that long. Jonah is a biblical prophet. He's got a book named after him. And the people of Nineveh in that story were rotten sinners. So if you had to side with one of them, you'd pick Jonah, right? I think wrong. Why? Because I'm a hypocrite. And you are too. All of you. I said that to one of our staff members a few weeks ago as I was mulling over the sermon, and you should have seen the look on her face when I told her she was a hypocrite. Who would not defend themselves against such an accusation? But then I continued. You are, because you have values and principles which are lofty, which you stand by, which you profess, and which you don't always live up to. Her face changed. She even took a step back. She began to get the point. There is a merit to a certain kind of hypocrisy. Yes, I'm a hypocrite. I'm not about to announce some tawdry reveal. Sorry to disappoint. But I confess to myself, and I confess to all of you and to the Holy One, that there are indeed some gaps between my professed values
my very deeply held principles, and my actions. And in those gaps, there's important work to be done. There's aspiration, maybe even holiness. Let me take a step back. On Rosh Hashanah, I tried to speak about the state of the world and the Jew within the world. Tonight, I'd like to speak about the state of the self. Where are you? Where are we all going? And what's the path? The topic was born in my mind when I was listening to a podcast this summer. Barry Weiss, who for years before she and her wife Nellie moved back to New York, were members at Temple Beth Am and would have been at this Kol Nidre service had they not moved. She was interviewing this summer Yuval Levin for her podcast, Honestly. Yuval is an Israeli-American political analyst. And it was the week after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania. And they were discussing people's reactions, including whether we should believe those who, to dip into the famous line from Casablanca, were shocked, just shocked, that the militant and divisive political discourse that they themselves had been promoting could have led to such political violence. He said we should be wary of accusing people of being duplicitous just by expressing shock and outrage, even if the day before they were contributing to the vile political climate. Everybody was, and everybody is shocked, and that's a good thing, he said. The fact that no one was saying, yes, of course, that event was the natural outcome of our rhetoric, is a good thing for us. In his words, we should allow people to back off from the abyss. I'm generally friendly to hypocrisy, he said. I think hypocrisy is a great tool of moral formation. And when Barry pushed him on that rather shocking line, he continued. Ultimately, I think one of the best ways to be a better person is to pretend to be a better person. He is valorizing and uplifting the notion of fake it until you make it. That's not just posing. That's not lazy living. That is, according to Levin, the primary way a human being actually affects change in him or herself. In his words, even if you're not living up to all your standards, to say out loud that these are your standards is important and valuable. This is counterintuitive and rather bracingly honest wisdom. It does not pretend that any of us is an angel. I mean, Otani was for a small amount of time. It doesn't pretend that any of us is sinless, so easily able to be internally and reliably consistent. We want to live in a society that has professed values worth aiming for. We are people who have work to do. If not, what's Yom Kippur for? If not to remind us of the person that we ought to be but are not yet, and give us the GPS for our spiritual and personal aspirations. In Barry's synopsis, it's better to have standards and fall short than not to have standards at all. It's better to be a striving hypocrite than live a life of perfectly self-satisfied moral mediocrity. Do you believe this idea, and do we as Jews believe it? What does our tradition say? This brings me back to Jonah and to Nineveh. In a superb chapter in her book, Subversive Sequels, Judith Klitzner compares the Jonah narrative, which we're going to read tomorrow afternoon, with the Noah narrative and the flood. She takes Noah to task a bit, and she takes God to task a bit. Why? because that generation is deemed evil and worthy of destruction based on their deeds. And what's not mentioned at all in the Noah story? Tshuva, repentance, the chance that they might be able to actually change their ways. God doesn't mention it. Noah doesn't mention it about his neighbors. There's a philosophy of staticness in the story. How you are is how you will be. Noah is righteous, he lives. The others are rotten, they die. There's no space for growth. There's no reaching to be better. It's a very early Torah story, of course. It's a very anti-Yom Kippur story. There's no room for meaningful, productive hypocrisy of the type that propels you through the gap between who you are now and who you know you really ought to try to be. But by the time of Jonah, much later in the Bible, there's been a change. If you think about it, what is the prophet Jonah's sin as described by the book? His sin is that he doesn't believe that the sinners of Nineveh can change. He is aghast and angry that after being sent out to herald doom upon them, he doesn't get to meet it out. Vayar Elohim et masehem ki shavu midarkam hara'ah. God saw their deeds and that they found a way to turn away from their evil ways. Vayinachem ha'elohim v'lo asah. So God changed God's mind and did not follow through. Vayera el Yonah ra'ah gdolah. And Jonah was very upset by that. Vayichar lo. Jonah was angry. Jonah thinks God is weak for holding back the punishment because people had the audacity to try to be a little bit better. But by now, as God has evolved through our biblical texts, and God does indeed evolve in the Tanakh, God seems to believe in what I'm calling productive hypocrisy. The people of Nineveh were sinners, but they knew they were sinning. And they knew there was a version of themselves and their society that could be worthy. And they changed their ways. Isn't that hopeful? Isn't that what we want? Between Jonah and Nineveh, I choose Nineveh. Jonah actually seems existentially depressed because the people of Nineveh stretched and reached across that gap between today's imperfect behavior and today's lofty expectations. And they found a way to live better and to be better. Jonah is depressed by that. I'm inspired by that. My dear friend, Rabbi David Ingber, once studied to be a yoga instructor. He completed a course, and he felt proud. And he told a fellow practitioner of yoga, guess what? I'm a yoga instructor now. The friend was unimpressed and put him in his place. You think you're a yoga instructor because you passed a course? Practice this deep body wisdom for 20 years, and then let's talk. You are nothing yet. On the one hand, the critique was cutting, but it was accurate. David admits he had been prematurely arrogating to himself an expertise he had not yet fully achieved, and thus pride he didn't yet fully deserve. It was, if you'll excuse the phrase, a stretch. They're not all great. On the other hand, that critique deflated him, and he remembers it 25 years later. His friends saw him as static. You reach this level, but only this level. In the present tense, you're not that impressive. But what if that friend had seen and reflected back to David the incipient beginnings of something marvelous, the first steps on a lofty path? What if he had nourished the seed that might one day grow into a glorious tree? David remembers thinking to himself that day, no, you are right. I'm not a true yoga instructor. Not yet. But I might be in the future. And that's what I'm reaching towards. Was David's self-assessment rank deceptiveness? Was he presenting himself as something that he wasn't? Or was it productive hypocrisy of the type that laid out the chasm ahead of him, between who he was then and who he could become. With effort, with earnest work on the self, with the very kind of work that we are supposed to be doing today. A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? Robert Browning may not have had the notion of hypocrisy in his mind when he penned that line, but he was musing on something similar. Reach for something that you're not yet, but that you know you should be. And in order to recognize that a reach is needed, one must confess that one is still in formation at every age in life. Still aiming for the way of being that you know is right, but is hard and elusive. We're going to get used to words saying that very thing. Achet shechatanu. We beat our chests towards a better us. In the 1980s, the United Synagogue put out a dense pamphlet. It was called Emet ve'emunah, Truth and Faith. And it tried to lay out deeply but succinctly the principles of conservative Judaism. We studied it, and I will admit, we lampooned it a little bit at USY events. Let's say it did not become the bestseller and the cultural touchpoint hoped for by its authors, at least one of whom is a member of Temple Beth Am and a father-in-law to one of its rabbis. But at least one line of it was memorable. We quoted it in jest because of its soaring, highfalutin language. But in retrospect, that line was profound and speaks to our topic. It went like this: complacency is the mother of stagnation and therefore the antithesis of conservative Judaism. Complacency is the mother of stagnation and therefore the antithesis of conservative Judaism. Within the theology and religious theory of our movement, the line was meant to celebrate a constantly evolving Judaism and Jewish practice. Standing still is deadly and very anti-Jewish. We are all meant to be striving Jews, reaching for the next mitzvah to perform, the next ritual to incorporate into our lives, the next thoughtful adjustment to religious life, given the historical era that we live in. We are, in a sense, constantly yogaing ourselves, contorting, stretching, reaching our fingertips out as far as we can. But the line can be applied not just to a movement, but to a person, to every person. Complacency is the mother of stagnation. And who wants to stagnate as a self? To say that you already do perfectly every ideal that you profess and embody is to prevaricate. It is to lie to yourself, and it is to lie to others. And it is to ensure that you will stay exactly where you are and exactly how you are. But to say there's a goal line out there, constantly moving, that exemplifies the person you want to be, and the spouse you know you should be, and the parent you are certain that they need you to be, and the friend that you could be, to say that is out there, and to reach towards it knowing it's a Sisyphean threshold you'll never achieve, that's productive hypocrisy. And we're all guilty of it, thank God. We should revel in it and the sanctity of the race across that chasm. There's a famous story about Franz Rosenzweig, the 18th and 19th century German Jewish philosopher. His youthful forays into the world of ideas almost drew him completely away from Judaism. He turned back towards Torah, but his path was meandering and it was fascinating. And interestingly, he's one of the few modern philosophers sort of claimed and quoted by Jewish leaders and teachers across the spectrum, from the Reform movement to Chabad to everywhere in between. Every Jew seems to find something authentic and illuminating about Rosenzweig's trajectory. He was once asked, as he was making his way back into Jewish life, he was once asked if he puts on tefillin. He had a crisp two-word answer: not yet. For that answer alone, we claim him as a conservative Jew. I see a lot of not yet tefillin wearers out there. He must have read Emet ve'emunah. In other words, he was saying, in 2 words, I know that a Jew is obligated to put on tefillin, and I don't deny that mitzvah or its authority or its import. I would tell other people that they should. I aim to get there myself. Someday. Productive hypocrite. Especially on Yom Kippur, our productive, stretchy hypocrisy is on full ritual and it's on sartorial display. We are all pretending today to be angels in order to reach towards the better angels of our nature, to quote Lincoln. We don't eat or drink because angels don't. We abstain from intimacy as angels are above that, but humans are generally not. Many of us are dressed in white and spend much of the day standing feet together, just as the prophet Ezekiel described the angels. Are we angels? Not I. Not yet. But like Yuval Levin said, one of the best ways to live more angelically is to pretend, to cosplay as an angel, to leap across the divide from you actual to you evolved, and see what sticks, and see what can endure, and what can be maintained. And think about our most iconic liturgy today, the Ashamnu. We are guilty, and the list of al-chaitz, the long list of sins. In a way, this is the inverse notion. When we recite those words and beat our chest, we are pretending, but in the opposite direction. We are taking personal responsibility for many sins for which we actually have no guilt. We are cosplaying the role of the complete sinner. Why? In order to beckon and enter a state of contrition. I haven't done all these things, but I pretend to in this prayer to awaken my penitent heart. And in the reverse, I'm not yet all these things I profess someone like me should be, but I say with pride, with a bit of productive hypocrisy, that I believe in them, and I say out loud and to anyone who's listening, I'm trying to get there. These are mirror processes, the al-chaitz and the not-yets. That we are fully sinful and we are angels. They are processes that give birth, that should give birth to meaningful change. And I believe this idea is baked into Jewish notions of behavior. And our ancient sages knew a lot about the human condition. Our tradition is very honest and not overly sentimental about how most people actually are, which is flawed, but hopefully striving, far from perfect, but able to articulate what closer to perfection looks like. A core concept of the performance of mitzvot is expressed in 5 concise Talmudic words. Mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma. There's no way to match that succinctness in modern English, but it's something like this. Something that begins not being done for all the right reasons or for the sake of heaven can turn into something that is, something holy, something intentional. In other words, try a mitzvah. Put on tefillin. Start saying blessings before you eat food. Do havdalah when Shabbat is over, etc. Even if now you are not sure why you're doing it, or what the value or the meaning is, just try. Lean in. Stretch. Just act like a more observant and a more careful Jew. Just act like a more attentive and affectionate spouse. Just act like a more available and compassionate friend. And who knows? You might become the very Jew, the very person you were acting like. So Jonah is no hero to me today. The penitent but accessible sinners of Nineveh are more so. I think Jonah was wrong. And I also think that George Bernard Shaw was wrong. And I sensed that all the way back in 10th grade. My school had an annual essay contest. I even remember the name of it. It was called the Baldwin Prize. You went into a large auditorium, you took your seat, And in front of you was a piece of paper with a quote you had never seen before. And you had 1 hour to write an essay in response to that quote. In 10th grade, the quote that I faced was one that belonged to George Bernard Shaw. And I remember it verbatim, even though I don't think I've confronted it since that day. He wrote, "I fear that we must make the world honest before we can honestly say to our children that honesty is the best policy." He was arguing for consistency, I get it, and against hypocrisy. How can we preach honesty to our children if we don't yet deliver it all the time? Isn't that hypocritical? My 10th grade brain bristled at this. I remember writing, unknowingly presaging Yuval Levin 36 years later, that I thought the best and only way to make the world honest in the future is to tell our children that honesty is the best policy now. Even if our commitment to honesty is not perfect, we know it should be. Tell them that. Push them towards that. Inspire them to reach towards that, towards the angels. That's not hypocrisy, or at least not the problematic version of it. That's learning how to fly, even when your wings are new. We're all hypocrites, or at least I hope we are, with reaches beyond our grasp, directing us forward and upward. We're not sociopathic or Machiavellian, intentionally deceptive hypocrites, or at least I hope we are not. We're not misleading people, but I'd like for us to be people of moral imagination, with images of who we ought to be, an image that is always at least a little bit beyond what we currently are. So this year, be a hypocrite. Live with a dream rather than static spiritual death. Name all the wonderful things you already are and be proud of them. And imagine all the things you are not yet and live into them. And who knows who you may be by next year. We're going to continue with the Marif service. Because it's Shabbat, we continue on page 206 with a Psalm 92 and Psalm 93.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב, טוב, טוב. צדיקה תמרי יפרח כארז בלבנון יזכה שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוד ינובון בשיבה דשנים ורעננים יהיו להגיד כי השער אדוני צורי ולא עלי תבוא. Adonai malach gehut lavesh, lavesh Adonai hozit azar, hafti komti ve'balti mat, nachon ki
Netzlacha me'az me'olam ata. Nasehu narot Adonai. Nasehu narot kolam. Yisu, 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 narot toch yam, mikolot mayim rabim, adirim mishpereyam, adir, 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 bamarom Adonai. Echanem nu meod, leveit chana bakodesh, Adonai leorech. Hadish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, page 247.
Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah. V'yama divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. V'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah v'barach le'olam u'amei amaya. Yit barach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudsha, b'richu. Le'ela, le'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata, tush v'chata v'nechavata, daviran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'ramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu 207, after which you may be seated.
Tamidim v'chaleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Hamari v'aravi
Amen.
Avat olam Yihei chayei v'horech yameinu v'hanekei Yom ha'am v'layla Yavatichal tasir mimenu liholamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael
Amen.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Adonai Elohechem Malchuto veratzon gibelu alem
B'nai Yisrael, lechanu shira, besimcha rabba, ve'amru chulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Norat Eilo, Osef Eleh.
Malchutecha ravonecha v'keyam lifnei Moshe Zeli anu v'yameru
Adonai Imlo, Leolam Ba'emet.
V'nemar givat Adonai et Yaakov Ugelo Yad chazak mimeinu Baruch atah Adonai Galei Yisrael Ashkireinu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom Ufros aleinu sukkah shelomecha baruch atah Adonai
Praise God, Shalom. Aleinu, Ve'al golamo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. Please rise, 212.
V'sham
Israel, et Hashabat, lasot et Hashabat, ledoratam beritola, ay, beni, ubein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz u'bayom hashavi Shabbat vayinavosh.
Adonai titaru Yitzchadal, Shemei Rabbah
Amen.
Yamad Raki Rutei Yamlich Malchutei V'chayecham Yamecham V'chayei Nechom Et Yisrael
Agala uvisman kari imeru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevora le'alam le'almei almaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach V'shavach V'yitbar V'shamach V'yitnasi V'yitadar V'yitalai V'yitalal Shemei Dekudeshai
Berichu.
Leila, Leila, V'kol berchata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiron be'alma v'yimeru The Amidah is said in a quiet whisper beginning 2:13 in the Machzor. Hi da dun da yo da dun da yo. Ya da da ya ya da dum da do. Ya dun da ya dum da yo. Hi ya 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 da da ya yo. Ha da dun da ya da dun da yo. Ha da dun da ya da dun da yo. Ya da dum da ya da dum da do. Ya dun da dum da yo. Hi ya 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 da da ya yo. Ha da da ya ya hi hi da da ya yo. Da 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 ya yo. Hi ya hi hi da da ya ya ya. Hi da da ya yo. Da 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 ya yo. Hi ya da 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 na. Ha da da ya ya ya. Hi da da ya yo. Da 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 ya do. Hi ya da 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 na. Ya da 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 ya. Hi da da ya yo. Da 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 hi. Hi ya ya. If you're still in the midst of your Amidah, please continue uninterrupted. We're going to continue on page 222 in the Machzor, adding in the special sections for Shabbat. Asher bara Elohim lasot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Eloheinu Elohim Elohim Yitzchak Elohim Yaakov Elohim Sarah Elohim Rivka Elohim Rachel Elohim Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Konei Shamayim V'Aretz Magen Avot V'Varo Hayevitim
Memamaro Ha'el HaKadosh She'ein Kemohu Hameniach Le'amo B'Yom Shabbat Kodsho Ki ba'am ratza lehaniach lahem Ki ba'am ratza lehaniach lahem Levan ha'navot ve'yira b'chachar V'noter lishmo v'chol yom tamid me'on ha'ra Adon Hashalom Mekadesh HaShabbat Umareshevi Umeniach Bikdusha Liamedu Shnei Ohonei Zecher L'maseh Bereishim.
Eloheinu v'Elokei Hapoteinu Ritzevim Nuchateinu Kadeshenu v'mitzvotecha V'tein chalkeinu v'toratecha Savinu v'ituvecha V'samecheinu v'yeshuatecha V'taher libeinu li'avdecha V'emet Yadchileinu Eloheinu Yahavarazon Shabbat Roshecha Yenu Israel Mekadesh Shemecha Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Please rise, 223.
Yale, yale, tachanuneinu.
Erev Yavo Yabatenu Mi Boker Ve'era Erinu Neinu Ad Arev Ve'era Erinu Neinu Ad Boker.
Yale, yale, tachanuneinu. Ve'yavo yineinu mi
Boker Ve'era Eviotenu Ad Arev Ve'era Ebakashatenu Ad Arev Yale En Katenu Me'erev Ve'yavo Elecha Mi Boker Ve'yera Eleinu Ad Arev Ve'yera Eleinu Ad Arev. May be seated. Just 2 minutes ago, I went over to Jackie Jacobs, our president, to let her know when she was going to speak. And I said, "Hello there, you hypocrite." And she said, "Why would you say that to me?" I said, "Oh, you didn't hear the sermon, did you?" Take it back. Listen to the sermon, then I'll say it again. It is my honor to present tonight the president of Temple Beth Am, someone whom you're about to really learn an enormous amount from, someone that I learned something from every single day that we work together, the president of Temple Beth Am, Jackie Jacobs.
Wow.
Applause from the...
Thank you for those claps. That was really lovely. Shabbat Shalom and Good Yontiv. In 1987, we had just moved to Agora from the West Side, and my bat mitzvah fell a few months later. On the day of my bat mitzvah, I felt all the things a 13-year-old feels. Nervous, excited, and elated to be wearing my new Jessica McClintock dress. Ladies from the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. But deep down inside, I had a feeling I didn't share with anyone for years. I felt like my rabbi, who was doing a beautiful job leading the service, didn't know me at all. We were new, and my family hadn't yet gotten involved in synagogue life. So while most kids were thinking about their party, there I was daydreaming of becoming a future shul president. Now, let me explain. It's not then that I knew I'd become a shulmacher, but I had a strong feeling back then that I didn't want to be a nameless face at a temple. I wanted to be the kind of person who would know everybody's name, hear their stories, the type of person who would help people feel at home in shul. Little did the world know, but a future temple president was born that day. If you've read my Kol Ha'am articles, then you know that the power of relationships is the theme of my presidency. And since October 7th, I believe being part of a Jewish community is more important than ever. Dan Senor and Sol Singer write in their fantastic book, The Genius of Israel, about the concept of gibush. Gibush is most closely defined as a bonding or cohesiveness. It means to consolidate, come together, or crystallize. Gibush, according to Senor and Singer, is the act of bringing people together with the goal of deepening the bond between them. We have not done a financial Yom Kippur appeal in years. You're welcome. But tonight, I'm going to appeal to you to find where you belong, your gibush here at Temple Beth Am, and there are so many places to look. I was recently speaking to a fellow Temple member, and he said, "Do you know what the essence of Beth Am is to me?" My mind raced with a plethora of possibilities. He then said, "It's pickleball on Sundays in the gym." Pickleball? Did my husband Alex put you up to this? He went on to explain, where else do you get synagogue members coming together in their free time, each at different ages and variable skill levels, all meeting in the gym to have fun smacking a wiffle ball at each other on a Sunday morning? This member had found his kibush. If pickleball is not your thing, there are plenty of other programming and engagement opportunities to find your purpose. We have families with children of all ages joining a new and exciting Chavurah program. From comedy nights to Hanukkah potlucks. Okay, thank you. Families are spending time together in their own gibush. We have many events planned for our next year's group, for members in their 50s and 60s, our seniors in sync group, for members 70 plus, and our Bayachad group brings young people from all around the city and continues to grow in popularity. These are real communities that have formed here at Beth Am. They are not just programming buzzwords that you see in weekly emails. People are truly finding their gibush here, and our membership numbers are higher than ever because of it. Where else is gibush alive and well but in our very own Pressman Academy? Under the phenomenal leadership of Dr. Erica Rothblum, the school is thriving more than ever. We have 2 full kindergarten classes this year and had to turn people away because we didn't have enough room in our kindergarten classroom pond to educate them. That's a heartbreaking decision and one we should never have to make, especially now in these times. This is one of the reasons we are actively working to expand the capacity at Pressman Academy with 4 planned construction projects. This past summer, we started the first phase, and we have 2 nearly complete brand new classrooms on the Pilch rooftop, which will serve as an art studio and science lab for our elementary school students. And we have more in store. You may have noticed that the ECC schoolhouse on Deering Field has finally been demolished to make way for the construction of the Lee and Louis Liner Middle School Merkaz. Try saying that 6 times fast. This is a brand new 2-story building with 8 classrooms and a large central courtyard, where our middle schoolers will have their own dedicated space to continue their outstanding Pressman education. We are raising the next generation of proud Zionist leaders. What an amazing space it will be for our middle schoolers to form their own gibush. We have 2 more projects planned after that, a much-needed renovation of the Gansburg School building and a new theater space in the old balcony. If you would like to learn more about these projects and support them, I encourage you to reach out to Dr. Rothblum or me. We would be more than happy to share our plans and take your gelt. Our Jewish learning community, otherwise known as the JLC, led by Ellie Laycook and under the wise stewardship of Rabbi Matt Shapiro, has added a transitional kindergarten program for younger students. And overall, the JLC has seen tremendous growth in enrollment, with 86 students this year, 25 of whom are new. Cantor Chorney is also working with the 7th grade class to connect their work in the JLC to their B'nai Mitzvot. Gibush was also alive and well at the first JLC Shabbat a few weeks ago, which had more than 100 attendees. Speaking of Shabbat, this past summer, the always creative Rabbi Schatz piloted a very successful Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat that was simply fantastic. Families brought their own Shabbat dinners, threw blankets down on the field, and kids got to run around while the joy and ruach of song and prayer surrounded us all. It was a highlight of the summer for me, and I cannot wait until it's warm to do this again. We have a newly relaunched men's society appealing to many of the younger men in our community. At last month's successful Torah and Tequila, there were more than 50 men of all ages drinking and learning Talmud. Was there more tequila than Torah? Who can say? There's a gibush. Our sisterhood has also kicked off another successful year with our welcome brunch a few weeks ago. Ladies, we have got to work on our alliteration for our next event. Mahjong and Mai Tais, anyone? Gibush also goes on the road with Temple Beth Am. Next year, the Beth Am trip, led by Rabbi Kligfeld, is going to Poland, Prague, Bratislava, and Budapest. Our own Dr. Michael Berenbaum will be leading a special version of March of the Living in Poland just for us. When you see the happy faces of TBA members as they visit historical sites all over the world, you see Gibush smiling back at you. One more exciting tidbit to share is that starting this November, actually on November 9th, the day of my son's bar mitzvah, we are reinvigorating our Shabbat morning opportunities. We will be offering both a weekly taught Shabbat and a weekly family service, along with options for rich learning as we utilize the full power of our clergy in the sanctuary here with music, liturgy, and opportunities for connection. I bet you're all sitting here with bated breath, wondering what's my gibush. Or really, you're thinking, wrap it up, Madam President. My gibush is actually serving as your president. I really was born for this job. And as you've heard, we have some big and exciting things coming your way. I would be remiss not to thank Rabbis Kligfeld, Schatz, and Shapiro, along with Cantor Chorney, Dr. Rothblum, and Cheryl Goldman, with whom I have wonderful and collaborative relationships. I am lucky to lead with such dedicated thought partners. As I look around, I feel elated and hopeful for all that is in store for us in 5785. Over Rosh Hashanah, as I listen to the newly formed Meshorerim Children's Choir, created and led by Cantor Chorney, as they sang Leonard Cohen's version of Hallelujah, I couldn't help but think of Leonard saying, "There is a crack in everything. That is how the light gets in. Let Temple Beth Am be your light and safe space in the darkness. May we see the release of our hostages and peace in Israel. I wish you all a Shana Tova and a Gamar Chatima Tova." Thank you.
Yasher Koach to Jackie. Yasher Koach to Jackie. Page 225. We turn to the middle of 226. Please rise as we recite the 13 attributes for the first time of many on this Yom Kippur day.
Tzlach lanu, Avinu ki chatanu, v'chalanu alkeinu ki vashaynu, ki atah Adonai tov v'salah, v'rav chesed lechol korecha.
We turn to 227. You may be seated. We're going to sing the first two stanzas and the last stanza of Ki Hine Kachomer.
Hine kachomer v'yam yoser, v'irtzoto marchiv, u'v'irtzoto mekatzer. Hein anachnu v'yadecha, chesed motzer, labrit habed, v'yaltefet hayeser. Hine kaheven, v'yadei birtzoto ochez, u'birtzoto mechateit. Hein anachnu v'yadecha, v'chayehu moteit, labrit habed, v'yaltefet hayeser. Hine kakesef v'yad hatzoref, v'irtzoto
Mesagseg u'birtzoto
mitzaref. Hein anachnu v'yadecha, mamsi lemazor
Teref labrit habed,
v'yaltefet
hayeser. We turn to 229 towards the top where the arrow is. Please rise for the second recitation of the 13 attributes.
Il horita lanu har shalosh esri, zachor lanu eyom berit shalosh esri. Kimo shotat lina v'yedem, kimo shekatu, v'yed Adonai v'yanan, v'yitzatze v'mosham, v'yikra v'shem Adonai, v'yavor Adonai al panav, v'yikra Adonai, Adonai, Eloheinu v'chanu, Erech Havayim, Rav Chesed v'emet, Noser Chesed la'alavim, Noser avon v'avesha v'chatam v'nari. V'salachtem avodainu, u'chatatenu, u'nechaltanu. Tzlach lanu, Avinu ki chatanu, v'chalanu malkeinu ki fashaynu, ki atah Adonai tov v'salah, v'rav chesed lechol korecha.
We are seated bottom of 231, the last paragraph.
Sweet. Imot Chamadei Olam Darashti Kirvatecha B'chol libi kiraticha Utzeti likratcha likrati mitzaticha lai la lai lai ai la lai lai ai la lai ai la 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 ai la lai lai ai la lai ai la lai ai la lai lai darashti kivatecha b'chol libi kiraticha utzeti likratecha likrati mitzaticha כבודך מלא עולם.
We turn to 233. The ark is open for Shema Kolenu. After the first line is sung, we repeat it. We'll sing Hashivenu together to a tune. And then the next two lines we also repeat after it is sung.
Shema Aleinu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chutz v'rachem aleinu aleinu, Mekabel v'rachamim, v'rachamim uratzon, et tefilateinu.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Tzrachem Aleinu Kabel Rachamim V'ratzon Et Tfilateinu Kadesh Yameinu Keketen Kadesh 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 Yameinu Keketen Kadesh 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 Yameinu Kekeden
Tashlichinu milfanecha, v'ruach kodecha, al tikach mimenu.
אל תשליכנו מלפניך ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו.
Tashlichinu leitzikna, yichot kochaynu al etazminu.
The ark is closed. We are seated 234.
Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Selach lanu Mechalanu Kaper lanu Ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu anu banecha ve'ata avinu anu avadecha ve'ata adoneinu anu kehalecha ve'ata chelkeinu anu nachlatecha ve'ata goraleinu anu tzonecha ve'ata goraleinu anu armecha ve'ata notreinu anu ve'ulatecha ve'ata yotzereinu anu rayatecha ve'ata mdodeinu anu segulatecha ve'ata keraveinu anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu anu mamirecha ve'ata mamireinu anu azefanim ve'ata rachum ve'chanun אנו כשי עורף ואתה ערך אפיים, אנו מלא עוון ואתה מלא רחמים, אנו ימינו כצל עובר, ואתה ושנותיך לא יתמו. In just a moment, we're going to enter into the vidui confessional section. And we have so many words in this section and the Machzor. And the Machzor in general, in the spirit of what Rabbi Klickfeld was saying, we, if we're lucky, say a few of these words and really mean it. The hope is that along the way, one phrase or one word will have enough of an impact that it makes a change within us that allows for transformation in this Chag. So, as Rabbi Klickfeld was teaching on Rosh Hashanah, there's all these beautiful poems about what to say around this portion of the prayer. This one offers this suggestion, another rabbi offers another, and finally it says, all of these are just, if you didn't say 3 words, aval anachnu chatanu. In truth, we have missed the mark, and we have some repair to do. If we're able to say just that one sentiment once with true intention, then it opens up space for repair in relationship with ourselves, with other people in our lives whom we might have wronged, in relationship with the divine. I'd like to sing with you a song that comes from here, the introduction to the Vidui. We're going to start on page 234, almost as written. 4 lines from the bottom. We say, Ein anachnu azei fanim. We are not so insolent or obstinate to be able to say that we are perfect, we are tzaddikim, and we have done no wrong. Aval anachnu chatanu. Oof, it got dramatic. See, if you can just say those 3 words, change can happen. Again, we get to the last line, aval anachnu chatanu. But in fact, we have sinned, we have missed the mark. And then the refrain is just the word that we find throughout our Machzor, anenu, answer us. Once we can get those words out, we can turn and to request to be back in conversation. And then if anyone was at the song session with Rabbi Klickfeld, please join us. In anachnu azei fanimu kshe oref lomar lefanecha. In anachnu azei fanimu kshe oref lomar lefanecha. Tzadikim anachnu velo chatanu. Tzadikim anachnu velo chatanu. Ein anachnu azei fanimu kshe oref lomar lefanecha. Ein anachnu azei fanimu kshe oref lomar lefanecha. Tzadikim anachnu velo chatanu. Tzadikim anachnu velo chatanu. Anachnu chatanu. Anenu, 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 anenu. Anenu, 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 anenu. Let's try that. Anenu, 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 anenu. Beautiful. Anenu, 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 anenu. Let's do that one more time. Anenu, 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 anenu. Anenu, 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 anenu. Beautiful. Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, tavo lefanecha tfilateinu, ve'al titalam mitchinatenu, שאין אנחנו אז יפנימו כשעוף לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו ואבותינו חטאנו.
We rise 235 for the Yashamnu.
Hey, 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 הטובים ולא שבה לנו את הצדיק על כל הבעלינו כי בית עשית ואנחנו הרשענו.
We pick up at the bottom of page 236.
אתה יודע רזי עולם, אתה למד תשרי כל חי, אתה חופש כל קדרי פתן, ובוחן כלי הוד ועלי, אם דבר ללמינך, נסתר מנגד עיניך, וכן יהי רצון לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו, אלוהי אבותינו, שתסלח לנו על כל חטאותינו, ותמחה לנו על כל עוונותינו, ותעבר לנו על כל פשעינו. החטא שחטאנו לפניך לא נס רצון, החטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב החטא שלנו. אחי שקטן לפניך ויצר הרע, אחי שקטן לפניך ויודעים ולא יודעים.
Al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
אחי שקטן לפניך אחי שקטן לפניך ועיניים רמות, אחי שקטן לפניך וזהות מצח.
Al kulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
חית שחטאנו לפניך ביצור את יד, אל חית שחטאנו לפניך ותמהון לבב.
Al sulam Eloah selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. We turn to the bottom of 242. You may be seated.
We're going to sing together the first line.
Just stand in the middle.
We're going to sing together the first line and the third line. God of mercy, who answers the poor, answer us. God, the Ane Litvire Lev, who answers the brokenhearted, answer us. Rachamana de ane laniye ay ane nan. Rachamana de ane laniye ay ane nan. Rachamana de ane litvire liba ayanena rachamana de ane litvire liba ayanena rachamana de ane la aniye ayanena rachamana de ane la aniye ayanena rachamana de ane litvire liba ayanena rachamana de ane litvire liba ayanena.
Turn in your mock source to page 243. It's both special when Yom Kippur falls on Shabbat, but it's also a little bit sad because we have to skip over 243. And we don't get to sing Avinu Malkeinu as a community until Ne'ilah. Because we don't say it on Shabbat because part of Avinu Malkeinu is making a direct request of God, and even though there are prayers on Shabbat that end up being direct requests, traditionally we omit it on Shabbat. but doesn't mean that we can't talk about it. Danny Gordis, who many of you read and listen to, he wrote something in response to being at the funeral for Hirsch Goldberg Poland. And he wondered about the choice of music at the funeral. There was a particular thing that was sung. He wasn't sure if it was spontaneous or planned. But at some point, there was a full chorus at that funeral of Avinu Malkeinu. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people were singing it. And he wrote a piece afterwards wondering why that? Why those two lines and that tune then and there? He wrote, maybe I thought because 320 days is horrifyingly close to 365, and if we were past 320, we're getting close to a year, which will be Simchat Torah once again, the end of the high holidays. Or maybe I thought because the funeral was taking place on the eve of Elul, the beginning of the month of Elul, which in some sense is the beginning of the high holiday season. Or maybe I thought simply because the words are so very, very true, because in so very many ways we have proved ourselves undeserving, as it says in that prayer, Ein banu ma'asim, we have no deeds. And because in so many ways, in ways more numerous than we could begin to point to, we desperately need to be saved. Bahoshienu. I want to invite you to close your eyes a second. And if you know their faces, conjure Rachel and John Hirsch's parents. And imagine what Yom Kippur is like for them this year. Conjure Hirsch's face, or the faces and names of other hostages that you know, or their families. Think about Omer Nutra, once a USY regional president from Long Island, an active member of a conservative shul, now in Gaza for over a year, we hope alive, hungry and trembling, but not because it's Yom Kippur. And think about our exquisite blessing of being able to be here together today, to pray in peace, and the sacrifices that so many have offered and continue to offer so that the Jewish people thrive. We don't need to say the words and recite the liturgy in order to appeal to our heavenly parent to see our woe and to swoop down and to offer us just a little bit of salvation. Continue Kadisha Lane, page 245.
David Kadash Meirava Yam Hati Baraki Rutai Yam Lich Mahutei Vechaycham Uvyom Heichon Eufayet Chobeit Yisroel Bagalam Izman Karib Meru Amen Shemei Rabba Befarach Yelamo Amei Hamaya Yitbarach Vishtabach Vibar Vitrumam Vitnase Vitzatar Vitale Vitala Shemei Kudesh Averichu Liela Leila Miko Berkata Vishirata Tishbechata Benechamata Tamira Meyama Teach Kabbat Lot of Hon Umatahon to call Israel Gadam Abulhon Divishmaya 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 Meru Meru Amen Ishtamaraba Minchmaya Minchmaya Bechaim Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael Imeru Amen Oseh Shalom Bimroma Aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael
Imeru. Amen. Please rise for Aleinu 246.
Aleinu leshabeach la'iton hakol la'tein tinulan yotzeir mereshit shelo asanu k'kei haratzat tinulan sabayu shishmekot ha'tamah shelo samech elkeinu kahen v'gol aleinu v'chol hamonam v'anachnu korehim
השמיים יוסד הארץ ומשה בקרו השמיים מלבד.
Hakatu Petoratech Adonai Yimlach Lilam Vahid
Ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad u'shemo May be seated, page 248 for Psalm 27.
David Adonai Yishivni Hirah Lulei Hemati Lira Petu Adonai Be'eretz Chaim Kavei El Adonai V'chazak V'yametz Libecha V'kavei El Adonai
Mourner's Kaddish.
Yit Gadal V'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah V'alma Dibra Kirutei V'yamlich Malchutei V'chayichon V'yomechon V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael V'agala V'yizman Kari V'imru Amen Yehi Shemei Rabbah V'barach V'elam V'amei Maya Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yit Hadar V'yitale V'yitalal Shemei Tekudsha B'rechu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol V'rchata V'shirata Tushvachata V'nechamata Damiram Be'alma Ve'imru
Amen.
Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. Osei Shalom B'mromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen.
Good Yontif, everyone. In just a moment, we're going to conclude with Yigdal and Hatikva. Just some brief announcements about what's happening tomorrow when it's happening, because there were a few changes in the course of the week. I'll rely on this, because otherwise I'll get it wrong. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, all the clergy begin together out on Ziering Field with Psuke de Zimra in the round, filled with harmony and beautiful tunes. That'll go from about 9 a.m. to 9:45, and then a quick transition into the sanctuary for Shacharit, Torah service. Rabbi Schatz will be giving the sermon before Yisker, the Yisker service, and then Musaf in the sanctuary. At around 12:15, some of the clergy will be leading a Hama'alot service back out on Ziering Field, about parallel to Musaf. Also in the round, some learning, some singing, some mindfulness, focused on the themes of the season. After Musaf is over here in the sanctuary, I don't know, around 1:45 or 2, I'll be doing, no? Yeah. Do I hear 2:30? I'll be doing some Q&A. Some Q&A right after Musaf until I have no more voice, and then we'll take a break before Mincha. Mincha will begin both on Ziering Field at 4:35 and Library Mini, which will be in the gym all day, and then we'll be concluding with Shofar Blast and Havdalah at 7:05 p.m. Rabbi Shapiro, is there something I'm supposed to announce?
Lounge.
There's a Yom Kippur family service at 10 a.m. down in the Dorf Nelson Chapel with Rabbi Shapiro and Morakir Rappaport. 11 a.m. teen program with Cantor Chorney and Pilch Hall. And then 12:30 High Holiday Lounge with Rabbi Shapiro in Pilch Hall. It's all there on the sheet, but I just wanted to make services go a little bit longer by saying it all out loud. Yasher Koach to Cantor Chorney and to Rabbi Yosef Goldman for leading us tonight. We're going to conclude with singing Yigdal on page 250. Then we will rise for Hatikva, and we wish everyone a Tzom Kal, an easy fast, a Tzom Mo'il, a meaningful fast, and a Gemar Tov, a good seal in the book of life.
Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yishtabach Yitzal v'heinei tel etzito Echad v'yachid Ki yichudo
Ne'elam v'gam ensof le'achduto ein lo lemut haguf ve'eino guf lo aroch elav kedushato kadmo lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit le'reshito imno adon olam v'chol notzar
Yorei gezulato malchuto Shefar nevuato Nitano Anshi segulato V'tifarto Lokam
Israel kemo she'od navi umavit et emunato Torah temet natan lo yachal Yisrael v'lo yinato
Li'olamim Lizulato
Sofer ve'yodea Tarenu Mabim
Sof davar bekadmato Gomel leish chesed kemifalo Notein lerashara kirishato Yishlach leketz yamin meshichenu Liftod mechakekes Yechael
Berov Chasto Haruch Adea
Shetehilato Meitim Yechael Berov Chasto Baruch Adei Shem Tehilato. And a Yasher Koach to Larry Brayman and to Steve Gray for the recitations of the Kol Nidre paragraphs. Please rise for Hatikva.
Kol Hod Valeva Beniva Nefesh Yehudi Omiha Ufatei Mizrach Adima Aini Tzion Sofiha
Good Shem Tov, everyone. See you tomorrow. Shakoach, shakoach.